What about some misconceptions, though, that people often get with project-based learning?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so one of the first ones that I want to say right off the top is that project-based learning doesn't mean that the teacher is never the focus of instruction in a classroom. There's this kind of
Yeah.
myth out there that if I do PBL, that means I never get to lecture. That means that I never get to be the center of quote unquote attention or the focus in the classroom. And it's just everything is the students are doing it and I'm really kind of hands off. That's not true. There's plenty of things that a teacher should be doing. And there are plenty of opportunities for the teacher, who is the expert in the room, to really make sure that students understand certain things before they get launched into these independent inquiry processes. For example, the school that I used to work at, it was an independent school, and we had 43 different feeder schools. A lot of them were like tiny, 2-3 dozen student, religious schools. Some of them were Waldorf. Some of them, they came over and they were full on coding in multiple languages. And I got to do a lot of the introductory lessons for new students in technology. So I've got kids that are like ready to program the Hubble, and I got kids that don't know what a space bar is because they went to a Waldorf, and here I am. We can't just say, okay, guys, go have fun in the 6th grade.
Right.
They're not going to be successful, or some of them are going to be so crazy successful, they're going to get bored to tears. And so I want to make sure that my students, when they would come in, they had the basic level of knowledge, the basic level of understanding they needed to be successful in their classes with these technology tools. That is one of the times that I, as the teacher, was the center of instruction, to make sure we're going to get you up to this level, and then you're going to be able to do all this stuff more or less on your own. I would say the same thing in a project-based classroom. You don't want students to not have the basic foundational knowledge, vocabulary understanding, because then okay, go research. Well, research what? If you don't understand the key terms or what certain vocabulary terms mean, how are you going to know to look for them if these resources are good to go? So that's one that I would say is the teacher does have a very active role. The other one I would say is that just having students work together in groups is not the same thing as helping them learn how to collaborate.
Yeah.
If you put students together in a group and there is not any kind of structure in place, you haven't provided them with tools to help them be successful as collaborators, they are going to fail. And you will have kind of inadvertently set them up for failure. And it's one of the reasons why I think PBL, which tends to be not necessarily always group products, but a lot of collaborative products are involved in a lot of PBL experiences, it gets a bad name because of that. Because the students instantly think of, well, if I put my students in groups, there's going to be this one kid who does nothing and this one kid who does everything. And then I'm not going to know who gets what grade. And it's like, well, but that's not something that has to happen if you are structuring group work correctly. Why can't you put them together and ask them to look at a collaboration rubric for what kinds of things you expect them to be doing? Why can't they, before they begin working in an unstructured work time session, list out the list of tasks they're going to be accomplishing that period and put their names next to the ones that they're going to work on to create some ownership over who's doing what? Why on earth, if you see that exact situation happening, a student not doing anything while his partners do everything, would you not intervene and say, hey, what's the problem here? Do you not understand? Are you not being included? Is there some sort of problem in this group? Or do you just need me to come over and remind you that you're expected to participate along? I think that that's another really big misconception. I think it kind of puts a bad taste in some people's mouth about PBL before they even really begin to understand that it's more than just group work. There's a lot of other aspects to it, but that one, I think, I don't know about you, but I definitely can think back to my high school and can think back to some really awful experiences I had working in a group where people like, hey, James, come work with us. And I'm like, oh man, they want to work with me. They wanted to work with me because they knew I was going to do the work. And they wanted to sit there and just goof around and doodle while I was putting together the research, bibliography. And knowing that, I don't want teachers to have to feel like that same thing is going to happen. I don't want that to transfer over to their students too.
Yeah, that definitely resonates. I had so many experiences that group work is almost like a dirty word for me. I'm just like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Because I always feel held back or feel like people are just pulling down the rest of the group just because it was bad collaboration. It wasn't really collaboration. Me and maybe one other person doing most of the work.
Yeah, exactly.
This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast is from episode number 114, and it's titled James Fester on What Works with PBL.